How's it going? Welcome to What It's Like to Ride. On this episode, I'm breaking down Aztec Family Raceway, located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, the hometown of the legendary Andrew Short. Let's get to it.
Roses, I'ma pull a flexing on these bitches like a Romies. Mama tell you, girl, you cute, but probably that she gorgeous.
This is another Colorado track that's located down south in Colorado Springs. It's a beautiful place to visit if you've never been there and you're in the area. Other than the dirt bike track, you can also check out the U.S. Air Force Academy, Garden of the Gods, Pikes Peak, all kinds of cool things. This is a great town in Colorado that's very fun to check out. But on to the dirt bike track. So this track is pretty hard packed dirt, very similar to IMI, where it's that dry, dusty, kind of gets a blue groove type of dirt. Later in the day, it gets very dry and bumpy and rough. It starts off pretty good in the morning when they prep it. It's nice and soft. You can get some good lines going. It does rut up pretty nicely for how hard packed it is. But like I said, when it gets later in the day, it does get very rutted, very choppy, kind of lots of braking bumps and acceleration bumps going in and out of the turns. You'll get kind of chop inside the rut, so make sure your bike is set up to handle bumps and very hard packed sharp edge bumps at that. So the track itself is not super big. It's actually pretty narrow also, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's kind of hard to pass on this track because you can't get a whole bunch of people next to each other going through a section. It's really only like room for two riders maybe, so if you got two guys already battling, it's really hard to get a third person to get around them. The jumps here are not very big. They're on the smaller side, and a lot of them have smaller options, whether it's a small table, a small triple that you can double, a little step up, something like that. So it's a little bit friendlier track for those beginner and novice riders. Although I think this track is like a beginner, novice, intermediate track. I personally don't think it's a great track for A riders and pros and fast guys. But that being said, there is a lot of fast guys I always see at this track. I feel like every time I come, there's always a handful of A riders that rip around here. I don't know if that's just because they're from Colorado Springs and don't leave the area, or if they truly like this track. But this track is kind of small. It's a little tighter. You don't really get to open it up very much. So I don't see it as being a great A rider, expert rider track. A lot of them seem to enjoy it and like it, so I guess it just kind of depends on who you are, if you're into this style of track or you just want to practice these conditions for another track. Then I think it's great all around, but as like a beginner or novice track, it's a good track for you because it's not huge like I said. The only thing I would say is you really got to be careful and be aware. Since this track isn't very wide, if there's fast guys that are trying to get around you, they might get a little aggressive and get really close to you or even push you out of the way. So pay attention to who's around you. If someone's coming up, try to stay on the edge of the track because there isn't a lot of room. So you want to make sure that you let them by and doesn't cause an accident. A nice thing about this track is it's not always the same. So this track used to be two separate tracks next to each other on the same property. And they kind of decided to turn it into one bigger track where it mixes parts of each track together. And they still have the parts that are unused there, so you can check it out. And I guess they switched the layouts quite a bit, so they'll take a couple sections, put them in, take them out, switch around. The track isn't always the exact same like a lot of the tracks around here. They'll go months or years without ever changing, whereas this one you always kind of get a new section or a little bit of switch up here and there, which I think is actually pretty nice. So if you're coming, check out this track, especially in the summertime. I'd say try and get there early because the morning prep is nice. Lines get drawn up pretty quickly, so the first couple hours is pretty nice riding when the moisture's still in there. But especially in the summertime when it gets hot, it dries out really fast, and this track does get really slick and dry and very hard packed. It's not very fun in the afternoon, but in the morning this is a pretty fun track. It's a little on the smaller side like I said, but that's enough of me talking about it. Here's a lap at Aztec. always, thank you for watching What It's Like to Ride. If this video helped you out, please leave a like. If you have suggestions for other tracks you'd like me to check out, please leave a comment down below and I'll try and get to it. Thank you.